Well, good morning, everybody. A very, very early good morning. It is currently 4:15 in the morning my time, and yes, I have been up since well before 3 o'clock to watch today's big announcement at Photokina out of Germany from Panasonic. It is true. The rumors you have been seeing and hearing are actually true. There is a full-frame Lumix camera coming. So let's just break down the details. There's not a huge amount of information out there. I have the official press release, which I have broken out into chart form, as well as having just watched the presentation from Germany. So I've seen the official announcement. So I've taken a little few extra pieces that I got out of there and quickly integrated them back into the presentation. So let's just see what it is we've got. So to start off, we are, of course, talking about the new Lumix S series, full frame without compromise. That's the slogan, and you're going to see exactly why that actually makes quite a bit of sense. So there's two different cameras, the Lumix S1R and the Lumix S1. They are largely the same. You're going to see only one difference in this chart. First of all, both of them full frame 35mm sensor. So for those who have been begging for wanting to have will only shoot on full frame, now you will be able to shoot with Lumix. Keeping in mind that Lumix invented mirrorless. Panasonic Lumix was the first mirrorless camera. They've been doing mirrorless from the beginning of mirrorless, and seeing the other companies that are doing full frame cameras now just getting into mirrorless with full frame versus a company that's been doing it all along, it's going to be kind of interesting to see how these cameras compare. So let's see, what have we got in here? Between the two, the S1R is a 24 megapixel camera, the smaller of the two. The Lumix S1 is a whopping 47 megapixels. That is going to be one of the big boys. Then up next, the autofocus technology, contrast autofocus and DFD technology, depth from defocusing technology. Do not know, is not clear yet whether this is some kind of a change of what we've had in the past with the DFD technology, but this is what is on the slide. So unfortunately at this point, that is about all that I can tell you. 4K 60p, it is fun to be doing these things only moments after the live show. We then have dual image stabilization. Yes, body and lens image stabilization. This is something that might have been missing from some of the other recent announcements. I could be wrong. You guys might want to correct me on that one. But pretty sure that the other full-frame mirrorless cameras we've seen did not have in-body stabilization, whereas the Lumix S series will both have in-body stabilization. Next up, highest flash synchro speed. Now, there is not a number attached to this right now, but what we are seeing marketed is the highest flash synchronization speed, presumably meaning highest flash over what we've seen in the past, highest flash over other cameras on the market, don't really know, but high flash synchro speed, highest flash synchro speed, which is great. If you, as you know, if you're shooting on pretty much any DSLR these days, you're going to get a 2/50th of a second flash synchro speed. So if we're able to go higher than that, then super duper. Next up, the 3-axis tiltable, oh good, tiltable, excellent, tiltable LCD. So that is going to be, of course, the LCD on the back of the camera. 3-axis tilt, that may well be different than what we're seeing here. I don't know, I mean, that's 1, 2, 1, 2, it's 2 axis. Anyway, sounds like it's a different LCD. We'll see what that means. Next up, dual XQD plus SD memory card slots. Now, this is a really interesting one. And again, not enough details here to know exactly what this means. So XQD, gotta get the words and the letters in the right order. XQD is a new format. It is a higher speed, larger capacity, but it's also a different physical size than SD. To my understanding, we have an article on this in PhotoJoseph.com that someone else wrote. But it is, as far as I understand, it is a different physical size. So I don't know if this means there's going to be 2 slots, one that is XQD and one that is SD, or if there are 2 slots that are somehow backwards compatible, maybe a slot within a slot. Don't totally know what's going on there. By the way, for those who are watching live, I am seeing the comments fly by. If you have a specific question for me, we will do a Q&A at the end. I'll try and answer any questions that I can, but I don't know that I'll have much else to tell you than what I'm telling you right now. But make sure you put @PhotoJoseph, type @PhotoJoseph in front of it. I see a lot of comments flying by. Not seeing the highlight in there, so I know a lot of you may not be used to the show, but if you put @PhotoJoseph in front of it, we'll hit the Q&A at the end, and I will try to address your questions. But if I don't see that @PhotoJoseph, I'm not going to know it's a question from me. All right, next up, this is exciting. So 100% weather sealed. We kind of expected this, but down to minus 40 degrees Celsius. That's a little bit cold. I think that the G series are rated to minus 10 or 20. I could be wrong on that, but minus 40 is cold. Minus 40 is way too cold for me to be shooting, so good for that. And then the L mount, the new L mount, we'll talk a little bit more about this later as well, but the new L mount for the camera. And these are both going to be released in early 2019. So these are not that far away. 2019 sounds like a far away, but it is already September of 2018. So we are looking at the not too distant future in here. All right, let's see what else. Let's talk about the lenses themselves. The Lumix S Series L mount lens. There are 3 lenses that have been announced that will be released. There's the 50mm f1.4, a 24 to 105 quote-unquote standard zoom lens. So they are not quoting an aperture here. I would guess being 24 to 105 is going to be a variable aperture. We don't actually know, but that is what they've said, is 24 to 105 standard zoom lens. And then the next one is a 70 to 200 telephoto zoom. And that one, I would guess, I'm going to assume that that one is going to be a fixed aperture. That could be an f4, could be an f2.8. Obviously, both very, very popular. The f2.8 being the super popular standard editions, full frame sport shooter lens. But again, we don't know. But that's my assumption. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that's probably what we're going to get out of that. The other thing is that they have committed to developing more than 10 lenses by 2020. So that's pretty awesome. Mr. Curley is pointing out to me that I have made a mistake in my slides. What a shocker is what happens when you do these things at 2 in the morning. Megapixel count, the S1R is 47, the S1 is the 24. Okay, so there's a 24 and a 47 megapixel. I may have the models swapped. All right, let's see here. Next, oh, well, of course, the way that we're going to get all these lenses. So we have the 10 lenses that Panasonic is committing to. Leica has its own lenses as well. Not seeing any lineup, but if you watch the slides, you would have seen just kind of a silhouette image of it. But it's not just about those 2 companies. It is actually a strategic cooperation between Leica, Panasonic, and Sigma. 3 different companies that will be making lenses for this series of cameras. Now the L mount is not new. I think this is important to point out. Leica introduced the L mount in 2014, and according to Wikipedia, there are a number of lenses already existing here. So let's see here. This is just off the Wikipedia page for the L mount, but there are a series of primes and a series of zooms. And notice the second one up from the bottom, the 90 to 280 millimeter f2.8 to 4 lens from Leica. I looked that one up. It's like almost $7,000. But hey, if you want it, you can get it. So there are existing L mount lenses, but Panasonic and Leica and Sigma are going to be releasing lenses for this collection, which is pretty sweet. Then a third announcement rather. So the second announcement was the cooperation between the 3 companies. The third announcement made today, there's 5 big ones. The third one made today is a new Lumix Micro Four Thirds lens. This is pretty slick. I can't wait to get my hands on this lens. It is the Leica lens. It is a 10 to 25 millimeter f1.7 constant aperture. That is supposed to be the world's fastest zoom at that range. f1.7, that's beautiful. And it's clickless aperture. So for those, it's designed for both video and still, but especially if you're doing video, you want to have that clickless aperture so you can change aperture while the shot is happening, change the light coming in without having the bumps in light change. And in the presentation, he pointed out that this was really like the quality of 5 prime lenses. The way it's designed, it is not a traditional zoom where traditional zooms, there's some compromises in the quality compared to a prime lens. This is designed as if it was 5 prime lenses all the way across, which is, we'll see what that means when we actually get our hands on it and start testing it, but that is pretty awesome. All right, next up, I'm very excited about this, Lumix Pro Services. This is the next big announcement. This is very cool. If you're used to shooting with Canon or Nikon, you know that there is a Canon Professional Services and Nikon Professional Services out there. Now there is a Lumix Professional Services. If you are a very professional photographer working with your gear in a professional capacity, you're out in the world doing the real job, you need to have your cameras working for you at all times. So there is now a Pro Services. So what does that entail? Some details, not everything on here, but first of all, it is available to GH4, GH5, GH5S, and G9 owners. Obviously, when the S series comes out, those will be included as well. Currently going to be launching in the United States, Japan, Germany, UK, France, Italy, and Spain. This is going to be a tiered setup, so you'll have different levels of Pro Services. Pricing was not announced on any of this, but we have both domestic and global tiers. So if you're only working domestically, presumably that means you'll be able to have a lower cost, more affordable package, whereas if you're traveling the world and you need support anywhere in the world you go, that would be the global tier. One of the things you get out of this is, and presumably this is more on the global tier level, is expedited guaranteed turnaround time on your repairs with loaner gear if the company can't get the repair to you in time. So if you have a job coming up, you can't be without your camera, you will be able to get a loaner piece of gear, lens, whatever it might be, to help you out in the interim. And you can register today. This is open registration right now. It is initial free of charge registration period. So you can just go and get signed up, and then the actual tiers will be announced a little bit later on. To do that, you can go to lumix-pro.com. From there, you can choose your country from the drop-down menu. At the time, right before it went live, I checked the US page wasn't online yet, but clearly that will be coming up very, very soon. All right, next. This, I don't think was actually in the press thing in the event. If it was, I totally missed it. I was taking a lot of notes, but this is an official press release allowed to be announced right now, and that is that there is some new firmware updates coming for the current Lumix cameras, which is very exciting. GH5 version 2.4 update. You can see the one highlighted in yellow there, the autofocus improvement, improved autofocus again. So this is wonderful. We have seen autofocus improvements every single firmware update. This is another big improvement for that. So fingers crossed, we'll see what's going to come out of that, but we're very excited to see that one. Also, this is improvement of video recording operation. I have no idea what that means. GH5S, same thing, autofocus performance. And then some of these might be bugs, stability during HDMI output. I haven't experienced anything there, but to be fair, I haven't done that much HDMI out of the GH5S, but apparently that's being improved. Same video recording performance, and then operation under specific lighting conditions, fluorescent lighting. Again, probably some kind of a bug that's in there that's being addressed. Also improvements for the G9, again, the autofocus improvement, and that same under specific lighting situation. And finally, the GX9, a smaller camera that was released a little while ago, also getting some improvements under that specific lighting condition. So must have been some global thing across all the units there. Anyway, so there's that. So the big Lumix firmware update, and those are all coming late October 2018. You can see that at the bottom of the slide there. Tom is telling me that lumix-pro.us is now online. That is the US version. Or again, if you go to lumix-pro.com, there's a little flag in the corner. You can pick US from there. It defaults to the UK site, and it'll take you to the US version. .us is the US version. All right, next up, the FAQ. So I tried to put together some of the questions that I knew was going to come up, the questions that I figured someone's going to be asking these things, and I'll do my best to answer these. After this, we'll go to the live Q&A, see what you guys are asking in the audience. Again, if you have a question that you want me to address, make sure you put @PhotoJoseph in front of it so I see it on my screen. Okay, first up, when will the Lumix S series be released? We already said this, but just to reiterate it, it is early 2019. There is no specific date, and I've already seen questions come by about pricing. Pricing has not been announced either. So early 2019, that is the extent of the information we have on a release date. What are the differences between the S1 and the S1R? The only difference that we have seen right now is resolution. Price as well will obviously be different between the two of them, but that is the only difference. 47 and 24 megapixels are the two resolution numbers on there. What does the R stand for? I have no idea. I just put that up there because I knew somebody would ask. I actually have no idea. If anybody else knows, Tom, you know, I have no idea. Really cool? I don't know, but it's an R. So we already talked about this, but the XQD versus the SD, what does this mean? Is it two separate slots? Is it a slot that's compatible with both? If it's a slot that's compatible with both, that would obviously make the most sense, but I'm not aware whether that's actually possible. Oh, everybody's saying resolution for the R. Oh, look at that. That would make sense, wouldn't it? R is for resolution. See, this is why we asked the live chat room. Next up, pixel shift on the S series. So presumably this will be possible because of the stabilized sensor. Again, we don't know. They didn't say anything about it. But the only reason I put this up there was just because it's kind of fun to do the math. If you do a 47 megapixel and you pixel shift it 4 ways, that's 188 megapixels. So that is just pure speculation on my part. But if you can do 188 megapixel pixel shift on that, that would be kind of awesome. Well, that's big. Next up, when will the new lens be released? There was no date set on that at all. It didn't say any date, it didn't say what year, it just announced that the lens is in development, and that is the end of that. So, unfortunately, that's all we got. Believe you me, I want me that lens. The 8-18 is what I'm using now for most of my vlogging type work. This just takes that up a whole new level. Really gonna be beautiful. Can't wait for that one. What's happening to Micro Four Thirds? Nothing. Micro Four Thirds is going to continue to be developed in parallel. Obviously, this is not going away. It's a very, very robust format, very robust platform. It's huge. It's awesome. I love my Micro Four Thirds. This is here to stay. Don't worry about it. I know it's kind of one of those things like, oh no, Panasonic's getting it. No, don't worry. Micro Four Thirds is here to stay. Which leads into the next question. Is development going to slow down now on Micro Four Thirds? I know this is going to be something, I'm sure I'm going to see this on Twitter at least 100 times today. People saying, Panasonic's doing full frame, they're ignoring the Micro Four Thirds market. No. No. Is development going to slow down on it? No. if you think about it like this, it's not like development just started on the full frame cameras. This has been going on for a while. And so any development resources that might have been moved away from Micro Four Thirds, and I don't know if anything even was, but let's assume that it was. That's usually how things work. That happened a long time ago. So no, it's not like suddenly that this is announced, they're going to stop focusing on the Micro Four Thirds. Absolutely not. Because I know this is going to come up too. Is the Lumix S in response to Nikon and Canon's full-frame mirrorless cameras? Come on. The Lumix S took years to develop, years. This is not a response. This is not a, oh look, the other company's made a full-frame mirrorless, we should make one too. Quick, let's mock one together and get up on stage and talk about it and release it early next year. It takes a little bit longer than that to develop these cameras, so no, this is not a response. It is, I would call it a happy coincidence on timing. So the other guys got theirs out there, and now we've got one without any compromises, which is kind of cool. I'm excited about that. Just in case anybody's watching this who is not familiar with the show or me, I probably should have said this in the beginning. I am a Lumix ambassador. I'm not an employee, but I am sponsored by Panasonic. So if you sense some bias in there, that's probably why. And the last question, which I know people are going to be asking me as well, will I be switching to full frame? So as a Lumix ambassador, I will have the benefit of getting my hands on one early. Well, hopefully early. Tom, I can get one early, right? Hopefully I'll get one early. I will obviously have one at some point. Will I be switching to it? I don't think so. I switched to Micro Four Thirds because I love the smaller size, right? I used to shoot Canon full frame. I switched to Micro Four Thirds because it's a beautiful, small, compact, lightweight format. I love it. It doesn't mean there isn't going to be room for full frame in my portfolio. If I'm going to be shooting in the studio and I don't have to worry about size and weight, then sure, why not? But I've been shooting Micro Four Thirds in the studio for years now. So I do not expect at all to be switching everything over. I love the small form factor of the Micro Four Thirds, so I fully intend to stick with that. However, obviously, there are some advantages to shooting full frame, or else these cameras wouldn't be being released, and so I am excited to get my hands on it. But no, I do not intend to switch over. So that, my friends, is everything that I have prepared for you, or pseudo-prepared, or half prepared and then screwed up for today's little presentation. So let me take a quick look through the comments here and see if there's anything to bring up. Remember, if you have a question specifically for me, please make sure that you type at PhotoJoseph in front of it. And then I can bring it up on screen like this, and I can see what it is. So there's Tom correcting me. The S1R is the higher resolution R4 resolution. So price point, yeah, we don't know that. So I'm going to skip past until I see some other ones in here with my name. There we go. Valentine, what do you think about the decision for contrast autofocus with DFD, once again, instead of phase detection? Do you think AI will make a noticeable difference? I don't know, obviously, without having tested anything, but all I can say is that the autofocus technology is continuing to improve. It's continuing to get better and better. Remember the Lumix G9, same autofocus tech. The Lumix G9 is labeled as the fastest autofocus camera in the world. This is on still photography, not video. We recognize there are some advantages to contrast detection for video over stills. It's one of those things that I can't speak for Panasonic or why the engineers go one way or the other, but I do know that it is constantly getting better, as we've been seeing with the GH5 and the firmware updates, and we're seeing a new firmware update coming in October with further improved autofocus technology. So all we can do is hope that it is going to be just as good, or at least very, very close to it. But other than that, I can't tell you. All right, Tom telling us that lumixpro.us is live. So remember, lumix-pro.us will take you to the US Lumix Pro website. Got all that? See, everybody pointing out R is for resolution. See, I had them swapped. That's why the R in my slides was the lower resolution one, which is why it just didn't occur to me that that was the, just don't ask. Joseph Gregory, what is the autofocus type? We just talked about that. Let's see here. Oops, scrolling off screen. Mike Polaroid, thanks for being up early to deliver. You're welcome. It is early. Any hint of adapters for the Lumix S for other lenses? Nothing announced by Panasonic. However, if you look at the, if you just do a Wikipedia search for L-mount, you'll see that they have on there already made for Leica L-mount adapters to other formats. So I don't, those are Leica ones that are probably pretty expensive, but I don't know. I was trying to figure out if the L-mount is already licensed. I could only find one reference of a lens now. I think it was a Voigtlander L-mount. So, and that was on eBay, so that could have even been a typo. So I don't know if the L-mount is something that other manufacturers will be able to do, like today with Micro Four Thirds mount. You know, you can find MFT lenses from tons of different companies out there. I don't know what the restrictions will or won't be for L-mount. But as far as adapters go, there's already some on the market from Leica, so that's cool. JB Joshy Boy Edit is selling his dog and house for the camera. Sounds good. Let's see here. D says, do you think the full-frame Lumix cameras will have 10-bit 422 and log profiles? Okay, so I unfortunately had that in my slide because I typed it in after seeing it on screen, but then realized that they weren't talking about the S series yet. It was just historical, so I don't know. We don't know whether it'll be 422 or 420, 8-bit, 10-bit. We don't know this information yet. Log profile, same thing. We don't know. None of that has been announced, so I don't know. I think you can make certain assumptions based off of it being a professional camera, but I don't know. So, unfortunately. John, what about eye autofocus and or face autofocus? Well, that exists in all the cameras today, including a body tracking autofocus that is in the GH5 and GH5S. So I would assume the same thing, if not better, but they haven't announced. Let's see here. Sergio, is it fair to say the S1 is a full frame G9? That seems legit. That seems like a good way to look at it. That seems like a pretty good way to look at it, actually. I like that. Although, I don't know. I mean, if you're specifically about still photography, you're probably going to want the higher resolution one, right? But yeah, I don't know. But I'm sure. I mean, it's a way to look at it, I suppose. Sebastian is saying, in the slide I saw 4K 6422. What does that mean? That was a mistake. I didn't mean to have that in there. It was supposed to not have the 422. So I'm going to erase that. So if you're watching this post-recorded, and no, I can't because I'm going to leave the live one up. Anyway, that was wrong. Don't worry about it. You saw it fixed in the slide live. Gunnar, hello, you're late. Sorry about that. You'll be able to back up and watch the whole thing. We're just leaving this live stream up. How much do you think the price difference between the lenses from Lumix MFT to full frame will be? I have absolutely no idea. I have not seen any kind of pricing, and certainly it hasn't been announced. Clearly, they'll be more expensive, right? I mean, I think that's fairly obvious because they are physically larger with more glass. So that makes sense that they would be more expensive. It's one of the advantages of Micro Four Thirds, smaller, lighter, and less expensive, so it only goes to assume that the full frame ones will be more expensive. So, but that's about all I can say. It is pure speculation. Do you think the new lens would be interchangeable with the G series with an adapter? So you wouldn't be able to take the G series lenses and put them on the S series camera because the G series lenses are physically smaller. It would vignette. You wouldn't be able to get full frame coverage. Going the other way around, I don't see why not. Obviously, Panasonic didn't announce that, but I can see anybody making an adapter for that to take a full frame lens and adapt it for a G body. Should be possible. I don't see why it wouldn't be. So if you're going to invest in all that, but this is one of those things that I've always seen with users of the other full frame series. Adapting these big full frame lenses to smaller cameras, whether you're talking to APS or Micro Four Thirds or whatever. Yes, you can do it on the other platforms, and that's great. But then you are still carrying around this huge lens and this little camera body, and you're negating a big part of the advantage of going to Micro Four Thirds. So just something to consider in there. Alrighty, I think that is everything that I want to show in here. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I know we had a nice, good live attendance this morning that was exciting. It is very early. I would love to say I'm going to go back to bed right now, but I think it's time to go for a run. So take care of yourselves. If you have any other questions, you know what to do. Drop them into the comments down below. I will do my best to address the ones that I can, but again, don't really have any other information. Oh, by the way, every press release that was announced today is on the website right now. If you go to PhotoJoseph.com, you will see all of them listed on there. Those all went live shortly ago, so those are all there. Same press releases that are everywhere, but you can check them out here. And you know the routine. Subscribe and hit the bell. Thanks a bunch, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.